One college football expert believes that the Oklahoma Sooners will be the most improved team in 2025.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase over at Game Time. He's Jay Smith of Unfair Sports. I'm John Williams of Sooners Wire at USA Today Sports. And again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On today's episode, we're going to give a few Father's Day shout outs in the third segment. We're also going to talk about the best hire for the Oklahoma Sooners football program this offseason. And we'll start with this. Phil Steele released his college football preview magazine earlier this week, or last week, I guess. And the Oklahoma Sooners came in, Jay, as the most improved team in his projections.
Yeah, Phil Steele's talked about this, and even in his book, he points out that in 2023, he had Oklahoma as his number 2 surprise team going into the next season, and one of the most improved teams, and that's coming off a 6-7 season. And the Sooners, lo and behold, finished the season 10-2 with and then going 10-3 as you add the bowl game. But they went 10-2 after Phil Steele said, yes, they're going to be better this year compared to the year before. Well, we're back to the exact same spot. So Phil Steele believes that Brent Venables has put together something special. He's ranked a lot of the position groups a lot higher than most of you would have expected. So I like where Oklahoma is sitting with some of the experts. I'm loosening up the feeling of stress that I had of people actually paying attention to Oklahoma, because a lot of them now, they're recognized. I think they're right. The Sooners should, if everything lines up just the way it should, just more so bare minimums, Oklahoma will be a good 2 to 3 wins better than they were last year.
Yeah, and I feel like that's a place that is easy to project them to, given everything that they've turned over in the offseason, and given the fact that they just won't be nearly as banged up again as they were last year. It's just going to be really unfathomable to me if they lose their entire offensive line and top 5 wide receivers again. Phil Steele talked about that and how that was much of the issue from 2024. But here's what he had to say. He said, ironically, it was an Oklahoma team that inspired this article way back when. Oklahoma is off a 6-7 season and will not be in anyone's top 10 except for mine. As I type this, I estimate the Sooners will open the year at number 24, but my magazine does have some influence, so they could crack the top 20. That's a little humble brag from Phil Steele there. Nothing was wrong with the Sooners defense last year, except it got left on the field too long. They held foes to 96 points per game below their average, yards per game below their average, which was number 4 in the nation, Jay.
That's huge. To me, that's probably the one caveat note from this that jumped out the most. The Sooner defense held opposing teams to 96 yards per game below their average. That's huge. That's one of those stats that a lot of people don't take in consideration for what the Oklahoma Sooners can be potentially. And Phil Steele, even Kelly Ford, who has his own power rankings and he has his own computer calculations on predictions and projections for teams, he even pointed out similarly that Oklahoma coming into this next season should actually have a better defense statistically than they did the year before. And Phil Steele just told you why, John. The defense was on the field too long. You have just a competent offense. You're good. So we are in hopium season. We are pumping it up turning the nozzle up for you all here in June, because we know that we're roughly 10 Saturdays away from actual football happening. And when fall camp hits, yeah, we're going to know what this team is going to be about.
I think hopium is apt at times, but I also think it's reasonable to think, like, look at the improvement. This offensive line is going to be better than what it was last year. There's no way it could be worse. The wide receiver group is going to be better because it's going to be healthier. It's deeper. It's more experienced. It's not you're relying on guys that have zero collegiate production stepping into starting roles to go be big time playmakers for you. You're not relying on guys with very little experience along the offensive line. Now, if a guy like Michael Fasusi or Ryan Foje step into a starting role or they get significant snaps, okay, that's the exception, but it's because they worked their way into it, not because guys in front of them were dinged up and banged up and they were forced to play. It's going to be a different ball game at this point. So I think, yes, are we going to pump the Kool-Aid out there for Sooner Nation? Absolutely. But we are optimistic for a reason. It's not just blind optimism. There's reasons why we're looking at this team and think that they could be better than what they were last year. Remember, they were 6-7 and they had leads against Ole Miss. They had a lead against Missouri late. They beat Alabama. They beat Auburn in Auburn. Why not? Like, I get why a lot of folks are down on Oklahoma because the 6-7 season just doesn't sit well with them. But come on, if you want to take off your Debbie Downer glasses for a little bit, you're going to see some positive movement in the right direction. Here's what else Phil Steele had to say about Oklahoma. After going over the entire roster with Coach, my conclusion is this is a playoff caliber.
Oh, wow.
The schedule remains tough, but last year they had just 3 SEC home games, and this year they have just 3 SEC true road games. Coming off of a losing season, they could recapture their magic of 2000, Jay.
Oh my goodness. He threw way too much up. Somebody turned the nozzle down on Phil Steele's hopium, because I feel like he's gone a little bit too hard on the sauce. But that is a very fascinating quote, that he actually sees this team as a playoff caliber. Now remember, I have his book. I get it every year, just like John does. This book here, remember, the most accurate magazine over the last 30 years. And I only say that because he's telling you, if the team does not fall apart health-wise, they should show up as good as the 23 team, if not better. So when I looked at the schedule, I went through it actually the other day on my channel over on Unfair Sports. Me and Coop did. You can check that out. And I mean, I honestly only see 3 games where I truly feel like it's a toss-up right now. Only 3. Texas, Alabama, LSU. I don't think any other one's a toss-up. I think Oklahoma should win all of the other games. And that's all because when I read through Phil Steele and look through his numbers, he put in his computers, look at the calculations that Kelly Ford has dropped, look at the calculations from other ESPNs. I go through all of them. The main conclusion has been this defense should be better than last year, which will be a shocker because Phil had our defense as number 6 in the country. Just you need the offense to do their part. The offense do their part. Guess what, John? We should see 2 to 3 more wins.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
And I have every belief that the offense will do its part.
Same.
I really
kind of in
do.
that boat too. Like,
again,
I would like to, but yeah.
As we've said on a number of occasions on this show, we don't need this offense to go score 40 points per game. If they do, great. But they don't need to do that. They just got to be in the 30 to 35 point per game range, especially in SEC play. And if they do that, they're going to win a lot of football games. So, hey, listen, we've been saying it. Y'all been killing us for it. Now Phil Steele is saying it. If you want, go send him some emails and let him know what you think about his projections of the Oklahoma Sooners. Listen, we're confident, but there's reasons why we're confident about where this thing is headed. Now you just got to go win football games and make a playoff run. What has been the best hire this offseason for Oklahoma football? We're going to discuss that coming up next here on Locked On Sooners. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. There's nothing like the NBA playoffs, the intensity, the buzzer beaters, the fans losing their minds in the arena and on social media. It's the kind of atmosphere you must experience live. And this year's matchup between the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Indiana Pacers is delivering big time. If you want in, Game Time makes it easy and fast to get seats, even for the biggest games. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to tip off, and with killer last minute deals, panoramic seat views, and no surprise fees, Game Time is a total game changer. I love what I can see inside the app. I know what my seat's going to be looking at. There's no surprises before I buy, no concerns about obstructed views, the angle that I'm going to be sitting at. I can see all that inside the app, and with the Game Time guarantee, you know what you're getting, and you're getting the best deal. If you find a better price in the same row and section, they'll credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there tuning in. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. So hit that subscribe button and that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Also, go drop a review wherever you get your podcast, whether it's Apple or Spotify. Leave us a 5-star rating and a review if you're enjoying the show. If you're one of the everydayers out there, just helps other people find out about the show. So, Jay, the Oklahoma Sooners made some big-time hires this offseason, both in the front office and to the coaching staff. So let's start here, Jay. What do you consider to be the most significant hire for Oklahoma this offseason?
And it's funny you asked that question. We talked about it, going into this. We kind of made 5. If you really think about it, new OC, new quarterback coach, new linebacker coaches, which leads to your head coach becoming your DC again, and then a new general manager to prepare ourselves for the new era of college football civilization. So for Oklahoma, I want to rank them. I want to rank the significance of those 5 hires. Like I'm not going to I don't think we should do the front office staff because we don't know them fully yet, what they're really going to do, the details, etc. But we know who's in charge of them. And then the other coaches that did come in, think that it makes more sense to really look at them. So if I'm going to rank them, John, here's the parameter that I looked at. Impact on the field, impact in recruiting, and do they make life easier for Brent Venables? So it's tough. I do think that Nagy's probably number 1 on the list. This is why. As we've praised about him from the beginning, he comes in and allows for Brent Venables to just do his job. But he also helps everybody else on the staff by being able to help find and evaluate talent quickly and establish the targets that make the most sense. That way we're not spinning our wheels on players that we would really love to have, but we find out they're chasing bags. There was actually one kid that just canceled his visit to LSU, and he's from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. It's not a common thing, folks. That means a bag was involved in that situation, because you don't see kids get out of Louisiana that are 5 stars because it's like the voodoo thing that they do down there. They keep them kids intact. They always wear the school colors. I think every school in Louisiana feels like, I know it's not true, I'm just saying this as a joke, but they all wear the same, all LSU colors. It's just a thing. They bring them in. That's the job. But I think Nagy's probably number 1. I think, and this is kind of weird to say, I think Kuziewski's number 2, right? But then Arbuckle's 3rd. Only because that QB coach is critical. Yeah, I think Kuziewski's big. I've heard some great things about dude. Now Arbuckle's calling the plays and everything, but the development, the quarterback, man, it sounds like he's that dude. Then I'm gonna go with I'd go with Goodwin, and then Dreiling is last. Even though Dreiling is the one that's really out there recruiting like crazy. I'm trying to figure out Kuziewski and Arbuckle. What you got?
Right, so I mean, I would go Arbuckle crazy 1. Like, to me, it's Arbuckle 1. Because
Fair.
you get Arbuckle, you get Mateer. And
Good
you
point.
don't get Arbuckle, you may not get Mateer. And it gives you a direct direction and identity on offense, which you didn't have in 2024.
That's a good point.
One of my guys, Aaron Gelvin over at Sooners Wire, wrote a piece this weekend and just reminded me of the mashup that Seth Luttrell tried to do between his offensive scheme and Jeff Levy's scheme, where he tried to just blend it all together to try and make it fit for Jackson Arnold. And I'm like, you got to have more clarity and more direction with your offense. And there was none in 2024. It was terrible. Injuries aside, there was no identity, no direction. Well, Ben Arbuckle gives you an identity. He gives you a direction, and he gives Brent Venables the freedom to just leave the offensive alone. The offense can go do its thing. Brent Venables can do his thing on defense, and you don't have to worry about it. He's got a well-established star in the making in Ben Arbuckle at offensive coordinator with a quarterback in tow as well. So to me, he's number 1. I'd put Nagy at number 2, and that's a short-term, long-term view of it too, because I do think he's going to have a significant impact. He's already having a significant impact. I don't know if you get Jaden Ott unless you have Jim Nagy.
That's a very good point, and that's kind of where I was going with the Nagy to me at the top spot.
Like, it makes sense to put him at number 1. I can't get past Arbuckle Mateer, the combo there at number 1. Like, you needed a big move. You needed a big splash. And I think Arbuckle also helps with the development of Michael Hawkins. You've talked about that as well on this show. You think he's going to be a direct beneficiary of that. So to me, Arbuckle 1, Nagy 2, Kuziewski's right there at number 3. Because again, quarterback development, quarterback recruiting, huge. You got to have it. You got to create depth. You got to create talent that's developed so that not just 2024 or 2025 is set up, but you're set up for 2026, 2027 as well. You're looking long term. And fingers crossed, if Ben Arbuckle does, or maybe not fingers crossed, but if Ben Arbuckle does go get a head coaching job sometime in the near future, maybe you've got John Kuziewski lined up to be the offensive coordinator at some point.
Yeah, that is true, because he does know with the system. Maybe, right? Maybe. There's a maybe there,
because he could end up being what Ryan Grubb is to Kalen DeBoer, and just somebody that just follows Arbuckle around until he's ready to get his own gig. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I can totally see that. He could be the one that just develops the quarterbacks for Arbuckle no matter where he ends up. So I can see Kuziewski following. So you've sold me. I think I flipped mine. I'm gonna go Nagy still at number 1. I think Jim is that, and I think Arbuckle. But I think him and Kuziewski they're kind of a package deal in my opinion too.
Yeah,
it feels like right.
Yeah.
Right, fair. And it's nothing against our defensive guys that came in. I think Goodwin and Dreiling are going to be massively impactful, especially on the recruiting trail. I mean, heck, besides, Marcus James, Jacoby Smith was like the first linebacker commit we've had since Marcus James. So we actually got a linebacker coach that can recruit, which is pretty important.
And he's got several other guys, irons in the fire at linebacker that look really, really impressive from a potential front. So I'll go with Dreiling at 4, and then I'm going to go with a different analyst at 5 instead of Wes Goodwin. Wes Goodwin's going to be huge. It's going to be important, but I'm going to go with Kevin Wilson, bringing the former offensive coordinator back from Tulsa, allowing him to work with your offensive line, helping getting Bill Bedenbaugh a little help. Not that he needs it, but anything that you can do to kind of turn over what was, again, a stinko offensive line in 2024. Like, again, you had to throw assets at it to make sure that you didn't have a repeat of last year. You got to get all these guys developed and good to go. And I think Bill Bedenbaugh, Kevin Wilson, because let's not sleep on Kevin Wilson, man. He was fantastic when he was an assistant for Oklahoma in the 2000 to 2010 years. Like, that dude was great. So bringing him back, making him a part of the offensive staff, it gives you another experienced guy who can coach tight ends. So not only is he helping Bill Bedenbaugh, but he can help Joe John Finley with development as well. So I think it's huge across the board. So give me Kevin Wilson at the number 5 spot.
Yeah, and he Oh, that's a good one. I didn't think about him as an analyst being that dude. I got to give it to you. That's a solid one because he also helps Ben Arbuckle being able to run the offense, honestly, independently of Brent Venables. And that's someone that we know BV trusts.
Yep.
Like that's the kind of the most important thing when it comes to how BV does things is you got to build the trust. Now he brought Ben in to be the OC and he gave him free reign. We've seen that. This is Ben's offense, but not having head coaching experience and time management is the most important thing. I do like the fact that you pointed out with Kevin Wilson, him being able to be there, not only help Bill Beatonbow, but even help quarterback development. I mean, we've seen Sam Bradford come out to campus. We ain't seen that in the past. Sam loved Kevin Wilson. So, hey, that now is a good conversation piece, even as you start talking to quarterback recruits. This guy made a 3-star that no one really knew about into a Heisman Trophy winner.
And the number 1 overall pick and help coordinate the most prolific offense we'd ever seen in college football up until, Joe Burrow in 2019 LSU. But that's besides the point. Anyway, just a lot of really good hires this offseason, and it's just further indicative of Oklahoma's desire to just be all in to make sure that they rebound from a disastrous 2024 season. Hey, it's been a great Father's Day weekend. I know Jay had a great day. I had a great day with our fam as well, but we hope y'all had a great day. We're going to talk a little bit about that coming up next here on Locked On Sooners. And who are Oklahoma's sons? There's quite a few out there. We'll discuss coming up next on Locked On Sooners. Once again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all your favorite podcast platforms and on YouTube. So hit that subscribe button and that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Had way too many chocolate chip cookies on Sunday. That's our tradition in our family. My wife and my daughter have been making chocolate chip cookies for Father's Day for like 7 years. I think I had way too many of them. So I'm having a little bit of a sugar crash because of that. But basically wanted to ask this question to you, Jay, because I just thought it was fascinating. Oklahoma has been one of the more prolific programs in college football history, and they've been daddy to a lot of football programs out there over the years. And just to start this, I think a lot of Big 12 folks forget who their daddy is.
Yeah.
With Oklahoma's 14 Big 12 titles, the next best is Texas at 4. And beyond that is Baylor with 3. And it's going to take a really long time. And the Big 12 may not even exist long enough for somebody to catch Oklahoma's 14 Big 12 titles.
Yeah, it's something that always fascinates me that teams, forget that, it happens. Everybody goes through a little bit of a drought, a smaller one. We've seen it. We've even seen Bama go through a drought. They had a small drought years ago, before they got Nick Saban, and then they just went back to their, old school traditions of the Bear Bryant era of winning those championships again. It happens, and it's okay. For Oklahoma, we're now in a we're just trying to reconfigure the way we're doing things while all of college football is changing or whatnot. But yeah, Oklahoma's owned a lot. Those 14 conference championships is something that I think a lot of people need to also remember and take in consideration that he was cooking everybody, and it was in non-con. I mean, the greatness of Oklahoma, and that's the one thing that I've heard a lot of talking heads and just people in general, sports fans that have a brain that are more rational, have always respected Bob Stoops is the fact that he's willing to go on the road and do home and home series with other teams. I mean, you had Notre Dame, you had Ohio State, you had Tennessee, you've had these home and home series is Washington. You go down the list, the only thing that sucks about it is that Oklahoma did not know when these teams were going to be bad. They just put them on the schedule. I mean, we've got some others coming up. Heck, we had one with Georgia, and unfortunately, the SEC told us to cancel it because they couldn't reciprocate it due to not knowing if they were going to go to 9-game schedules. So that Oklahoma's always been willing to go out and play some of the best and not be afraid of. Heck, we got Michigan coming up. Did Oklahoma have to do that? No, they could have kept it cupcakeish. Go to a lower tier Big Ten team, a lower tier, SEC, ACC or whatever. They could have done that, but they didn't. They said they wanted to play some of the best or try to play some of the best. Michigan won a national championship 2 years ago. Unfortunately, they're kind of in limbo, but that's not the point. We've always tried, but we also own a lot of y'all's. Looking at you, Missouri.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
A&M, talk to me.
Yeah, Oklahoma 67-25-5 against Mizzou. Yeah, you got the last one, but let's be real.
Congratulations. Proud of you.
It took the worst Oklahoma offense in 27 years and a turnover down the stretch and a guy falling down for you to beat Oklahoma. Like, it took all that in Oklahoma's worst season since 1998 for you to beat Oklahoma. So you can't sit there on your high horse like, oh, we got OU. Come on. No, you didn't. You didn't get OU. You got you got OU with one arm and one leg tied behind its back.
That's literally what you had.
Okay. Oklahoma State. Let's not forget who's the top dog. 91 wins. 91, 20-7. I know you miss us. I know things haven't been the same, so we left. We listen, we think about you sometimes too. And we'll take Bedlam back on the schedule when your administration's ready. But don't forget, let's not get it twisted. It goes one way, but it's not the way you think it goes.
Exactly.
Iowa State, Oklahoma, 80 wins, 7 losses, and 2 ties all time.
God.
What's crazy about that, Jay, is 2 of those losses came in the Lincoln Riley era.
That's wild.
How nuts is that?
That was the Matt Campbell era, so I could totally see it because Matt Campbell has been doing some things. That's the one. He's one coach that I am surprised he hasn't taken another job, and I've also seen in moments of him being there that he's probably missed out on the opportunity to take another job. While at the same time, now he's back at the point where I'm surprised somebody hasn't tried to poach him yet.
Right?
It's the wildest thing.
Yeah, he's gonna get that statue built there one day because he's just gonna be
really
a lifer.
Is.
It's just funny. It's like anything that you would never have expected to happened kind of during the Lincoln Riley era. You lose twice to Iowa State. That would have never happened to any other, coach.
Nobody
Maybe
else.
Back in the John Blake era. I don't know. But I mean, Brent Venables always gets compared to the John Blake era, but he didn't lose to Iowa State twice. Let's just put it that way. Now, he only got to play Iowa State once. Maybe. Did they play twice? No, they played twice. Did they play twice? I'm trying to think if they played in 23. Anyway, I'm blanking on that.
Yes, they played in 23.
Yeah, and they won both those games.
Yeah, we won in 23 because Billy Bowman got a pick 6 to start the game, and we were like, oh, okay, this game. And then you could tell that the defense kind of got laxed and was like, we're not going to play too hard. And then Iowa State started coming back, and we were like, all right, turn it back up. And then we ended up blowing them out in that game.
Yeah, that was a big DG game, if I remember now.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was a big DG game.
Yeah.
And Iowa State was not very good that year.
Let's also talk about some Power 4 teams that Oklahoma's undefeated against. UNC, 7-0. Who's your daddy? Maryland, 4-0. Who's your daddy? Iowa, Penn State, Minnesota, Michigan. Oklahoma has beaten them all every time they played them. Big Ten, who's your daddy? Oklahoma is also 3-0 against the Auburn Tigers, who are going to be coming to town this year.
Just make it 4-0, baby. That's
Yeah.
all I expect.
Yeah.
I expect that. That should be 4-0. I'm just going to call it now. Darn it. I'm looking at their roster, in which we'll get back to previewing the opponents, early previews before fall camp, and then give you fall camp previews of these opponents. But yeah, that's going through all of the depth chart stuff. We better. We better. No excuse.
Yeah, no excuses there. Even if Jackson Arnold has a good game, I still think Oklahoma should win that game. But on a serious note, like Oklahoma, they've got the history. They've got the 7 national titles, going for number 8. They've got the 7 Heisman winners, the 50 conference championships. They've been a lot of people's daddies over the year. And I think this is the year they get back to being on top and showing teams what Oklahoma football is about.
Exactly. Rule 76, no excuses, play like a champion.
That's right. And that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in, being a part of the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. So hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Follow Jay at Unfair Sports. You can go check out his channel, Unfair Sports, over on YouTube. You can follow me at John 9 Williams. You can read my work covering the Sooners over at SoonersWire.com. The show is at Locked On Sooners on all of your favorite social media platforms. But until next time, he's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. We'll talk to you then. Boomer
Sooner. Just remember who your daddy is. And that's all.
That's right.
Everything will be okay.
That's right.